Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Flag Lab podcast. I'm your host, Coach Lambo. We're going to deliver a short episode, bringing it back to a beginner class if you're just starting out your program or looking to reinvent your terminology on your offense. We're here to help talk about position names and then offensive formation design and naming. Sometimes these things are overlooked when we're starting our season out. I know I did my first season, so we'll talk about the troubles that I had, position names, and even offensive formation. Let's dive in. Okay, let's talk about position name. This is how we name our positions currently, two programs that I'm involved with, our club team and our high school team. How we do it is our base formation is going to be dubs, or what's called a 2x2 formation. Two eligible receivers on each side of the center. Our number one on the left is always going to be A. Our number two on the left is B. Our center is C. Our quarterback is Q. Our running back is the X. Our number two receiver on the right is the Y. And our number one wide receiver on the right is the Z. So we have A, B, C, Q, X, Y, Z. The reason I like the number format is because when we use our terminology on offense, if you watch previous videos, I'll talk about the number one receiver, the number two receiver, the number three receiver in route concepts. So my first year, we actually numbered them. This was the number one, number two. Our running back was the number three. And then we had the number four and number five. And we had our Q and we had our center. They stayed the same. If we wanted to motion one of these players, we would just say 4 jet, 2 fly, 5 in, 1 enter, 2 orbit. Now we ran into a problem when we started to get a little bit more sophisticated when we were running our offensive formations and running our shifts and trying to communicate with each other of what we were doing and responses of what we were seeing on offense. For example, let's say we would go to trips. It would look like this if I were to draw it on the board. Our number two would now become the third receiver on that side. And then when we would run a motion, let's say some sort of 4 enter and then run, let's say a basic flood concept. Well, this became very confusing to our girls and also myself in communicating when someone would run, let's say they would both run the same route. Our quarterback would say, there was no speed out on the play. And I would say, well, who was our number two? Well, technically, this girl's our number two position-wise, but she's also number two our receiver-wise. So if there's a miscommunication, like, who was our number two? Well, I was number two. You were supposed to run a speed out. And then if we run it to the left side, it would actually be the opposite because our two would be here, then our four, we run it the same way. Now she's the number two player, but she's running the number three route. So you can see how that would become confusing because we name our plays in order from outside receiver in. So let's say this play was just vert, speed out by the number two. So let's say out, and then deep out. So this would be for the number one, the number two, the number three. Well, this girl became the number three, but her position is the number two. And you can just see how that started to become confusing. So that's why we changed our position naming to the letters. You can also name them whatever you like. I just like the simple letter system. It keeps it very simple for us when communicating with our girls what position they need to be. All right. Let's shift over now to formation, design, and naming. This isn't meant to add more onto whatever you're doing. If you already have a system for this stuff, then that's totally fine. But if you're looking to start, let's say, coaching younger teams or you're taking over a new team, these are just some ideas that I have that I found helpful over my 20 plus years of coaching that has made it easy for our teams to learn. Also, it's been easy for us to teach as well. You have at least 3 2x2 formations when you start out. So 2x2 means you have 2 players on each side of the center in the formation. As such, I'm going to use how we call our players position names for the sake of this video. So this is a formation we just call doubles. There's 2 receivers on each side. That's our base formation. When you create your formations, I highly advise that you give very specific landmarks for your girls to line up in this formation. I can't tell you how many times, even still today, we struggle when new girls come to our program, no matter how many times we can tell them to line up 4 yards from the line of scrimmage or 1 yard outside the hash. Every now and then I'll look over, and because we're on the right hash, our A decides to go 8 yards from the sideline because they don't want to run all the way over there. Now that's unacceptable for me. We pride ourselves on spacing and numbers advantage and leverage advantages. So if we're changing our formations, I don't want it to be because they're freelancing out there. If I want our receiver to squeeze down her splits, I'm going to call a different formation. I'm going to have a new name for that. But they need to line up in the same position every single time. So when I call doubles, I expect this A to be 4 yards from the sideline and this Z 4 yards from the sideline. I expect this Y to split the difference between our center and our Z. So if the ball's in the middle of the field, it's fairly simple. You're pretty much going to be on the boys' hash marks. If you're on a hash, we're going to be wider, but we're still going to be equidistant from the C and the Z on each side. And the same thing's going to go for our B on this side. But our formations are really predicated off our A's and Z's setting the formation, the end line, for these girls to judge, am I halfway in between my center and my Z? Something that I want to mention that I find extremely helpful when naming formations is all of our 2x2 formations they start with the letter D. That makes it simple for our girls to understand. So if I'm the Y, I know that if any formation starts with the letter D, then I'm never going to be on this left side of the formation. Whether it's doubles, doubles short, doubles tight, double squeeze, dual, whether it's dump truck, she knows I'm going to be on the right side because it's a 2x2. Okay, vice versa for the B. Anytime a formation starts with the letter D, she knows she's going to be on the left side of the center. I also advise you to come up with really short names. I think most of my formation names are single syllables. Very few of them are even 2 syllables. So they're very easily communicated and quickly communicated with all of our players. Another formation that I recommend you having is some sort of formation where your number 2 is attached. If I have my number 2 attached here, now I have someone in closer. So now you have the freedom of using this X with a motion as a screener. So now they can essentially switch responsibilities. So we talk about gaining a leverage advantage or a numbers advantage. If their rusher lines up here, now they're in man or they're in zone coverage and this X has been screening the whole time, maybe no one will have eyes on her. So now if you run your slant out combo, maybe nobody will see your X go and the Y stay in and blocking. So I like this formation here, just attaching one of my receivers to the center to give that freedom to switch the routes and see if the defense is staying honest with us, with their eyes where they need to be, or if they're communicating with that with their teammates out there. And you can have a similar formation where you bring both of these number 2s attached. But notice how I haven't moved these A's and Z's in these formations. Again, if I want to move them closer, I will give a new formation name for that. I recommend if you're just starting out to make sure you have at least 2 to 3 different 2x2 formations. You can get super creative with them. You can be mundane with them. It's up to you. But I recommend to have at least a couple of balanced formations. Okay, let's talk about 3x1 formations now. This is where stuff starts to get real fun, when you start to overload one side of the line of scrimmage. You start to move into 3x1 concepts, and then maybe they have too many defenders left over here, and you can really take advantage of this. Or maybe they over adjust, and now you can take advantage of this backside. 3x1, have at least 2, I would say. I put 1 to 3, but you should have 2 to 4 of these if you really want to get creative with your play calling. So the first thing is we're going to have 3 eligible receivers on one side of the center. So over here we have 1, 2, 3, and then we have a single receiver out here. Now all of my formations that are 3x1 start with the letter T. As soon as our girls hear the letter T call, they know it's going to be a 3x1 to one of the sides, whether it's going to be right or it's going to be left. And usually that's only going to affect our B and Y, not our A and Z, unless it's one of those formations where we're either condensing or widening out our splits. This would be, for example, our trips play, which is probably most people's trips. And like I said, we have a lot of variations of our 3x1s we can do. And again, all of the formations that are 3x1 start with the letter T, and they're very short. Trips, 1 syllable. Trio, tray, trot, toy, whatever you want. You can have many different words start with the letter T that equals a 3x1 formation. For us, our Z is still going to be 4 yards from the sideline. Our A is still going to be 4 yards from the sideline. Then it's our job for our B and Y to just eyeball it and make sure they're all equidistant from each other. I don't want anything off. Obviously, it's not drawn to scale. We'd prefer our B to probably be a little bit further out, but we want an exact, nice spacing. We can shrink those, but we're going to call that different. Trips needs to look like this every single time. So I know the spacing of each one of these girls. Sorry, I don't have my X in there. So I know the spacing of every one of these girls, and I know what plays we can run with that type of spacing. Okay, here now, if I wanted to get into trips on the left side, I would just say trips left. Nothing too rocket science-y there. A, 4 yards from the line of scrimmage. B and Y, look to split the difference. I drew it out a little bit better here, where they're all got similar spacing between the next receiver. Again, the Z is still 4 yards from the sideline on that side. What you've also probably noticed is that my B and Y never cross over each other. So my Y is the adjuster going from the right side to the left side. They don't switch that position. I want them to make sure that every time they go trips left, they know where to line up. If I wanted them to switch, I would motion to it. And I like them to just master their position from that number 3 spot on the left side and on the right spot as that number 2. Let's talk about 2-back sets. Now for our 2-back sets, all of our formations will start with the letter S. So this formation here is going to be sting. And so anytime we want either a B and X or a Y and X in the backfield or a Z and X, that formation is going to start with the letter S. Because it doesn't say sting left, and I'm going to have my offensive formation strength to the right side. So that's how our girls will decipher which person comes into the backfield. If it's sting, it's still going to have more eligible receivers to the right side than the left side on the line of scrimmage. So then the B has to know I'm the one who's removing myself and entering into the backfield. So our Y will just come attached to our center, and we're running sting here. We have some running back stuff we can do here. We can run some crossing routes out of the backfield as well here, out of this formation. And we can just get a little bit creative with motions. Sometimes we like a one-on-one matchup and we want to have extra screeners in the backfield. We just need to make sure we give our quarterback some time. This is another way we can do it. So all of our 2-back sets will start with the letter S. Now, the last formation grouping I want to talk about is your empty sets. You don't have any running back near the quarterback. For us, because we don't do this too often, and because it really only affects one other player in the formation, which is going to be the running back, we don't come up with a whole new system for what it should start with, what the letters should start with. So what we do, if we want to line up and have our screener or running back leave the backfield, we'll say queen or king. If we want our X to line up on the left side, we'll call dubs, but we call queen. Queen is going to come down to the left side. If we call dubs king, you guessed it, our X now comes down on the right side. So we have trips on here, 3x1 to this side, and we still have 2 receivers over here on the back side. So we just take what other formation we currently have, formation name, and then we'll add a king or queen, which I usually abbreviate on the wristband, king, queen, which we also have signals for as well. So say we wanted to line up in a quads look, we would just call here trips. Trips king gets us our trips over here to the side, and then king tells our X to go out on the right side as well. Now we have a quad look on this side. If we wanted to run an empty set with just our X and our A on the left side, we would say trips queen. And now we have a 3 receiver set on this side and a 2 receiver set on the left side. So that's how we call our empty formations. We just tell our X how she's going to adjust either to the left or the right. All right, that's going to do it for this episode and showing you guys how to design formations and name them. Now, again, this isn't all the formations you can run because of our game doesn't have any formation limitations. There's a lot of things you can do with stacking players behind each other, moving them really close to each other, creating these little tight bunches. So they're really limitless. I encourage you to get creative, get innovative, have fun. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, subscribe. Also share it with some coaches that you may find it useful in your coaching community or your assistant coaches so they can continue to level up how they're looking at offense when it comes to naming and attacking scheme and play design. All right, that's going to do it. Be sure to tune in for next episode where I'm going to combine previous episodes and show you how to specifically attack defenses to get that leverage or numbers advantage using multiple formations and motions. See you guys next time. And remember, see the defense, solve the problem.